YouTube, how we doing, family? It's your boy, Yo! And this is another episode of Yo Hoops. We go through every NBA game every day. Today's Monday, March 17th, and we have a 10-game NBA card. I'm going to walk you through every game, let you know which sides I like, and stick around, because I'll let you know my highlighted play of the day. I do this every day for free, so please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and let me know your favorite games in the comment section below. Without further ado, let me get into today's recap. Recapping yesterday, we did drop our highlighted play of the day. We took the Atlanta Hawks laying 6 points in Brooklyn against the Brooklyn Nets. The Hawks needed to win that game in terms of standings, so I was genuinely surprised to see them lose it outright against the 23-45 Nets. The final score was 122 to 114 Brooklyn. I was sick. We're now 12-9 against the spread on highlighted plays in March, but I'm looking to go on a win streak, and that starts with stacking our highlighted win today. Without further ado, let me get into today's games. In our first matchup of the evening, we have the Miami Heat in New York taking on the New York Knicks. Knicks are laying 7.5 points, and the total is 211. Looking at the injury report for this one, the Knicks are still without Jalen Brunson, and on the Heat side, Alec Burks is ruled out, and Andrew Wiggins is questionable. We saw this matchup on March 2nd of this month, and the Knicks won that game 116 to 112 in overtime. Jalen Brunson dropped 31, 6, and 5 in that one, and here without him, I think the Heat will have a chance to win this one outright down the stretch. This is a rivalry style game. The Heat usually get up against the Knicks, and I think 7.5 is too many points to lay. The last Knicks overtime win against the Heat was in Miami, and here in New York, the Heat should be looking to return the favor. We're taking the Heat plus 7.5 as our first selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Detroit Pistons in New Orleans taking on the New Orleans Pelicans. Pistons are laying 7.5 points, and the total is 232. The Pistons haven't quite looked like themselves recently, but there's no way I'm expecting the 18-win Pelicans to keep this one competitive. The Pels come into this one with a concerning injury report. Yves Missi, Zion, and Kelly Olynyk are all questionable. The Pistons are in the thick of the playoff race in the East, just one game behind the Pacers for the 5th spot. I expect Detroit to be locked in down the stretch. The Pelicans aren't just going to lay down here, but by the end of it, the Pistons should get this one done by margin. We're taking the Pistons laying the 7.5 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Indiana Pacers in Minnesota taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves. Wolves are laying 8 points, and the total is 229. The Timberwolves come into this one on the second leg of a back-to-back, but no travel as they remain at home in Minnesota. I liked what I saw yesterday against the Jazz. The Wolves are finally getting back healthy, and they look dominant with everyone on the floor. The Pacers come into this one with quite a lengthy injury report. Pascal Siakam is ruled out, then Aaron Nesmith, Miles Turner, and Tyrese Halliburton are all listed as questionable. Even if everyone plays on the Pacers, I think the Wolves can get this one done by margin, but banged up like this, I think the Wolves run them out the gym. Like I said, Minnesota is starting to reach that playoff form. We're taking the Wolves laying the 8 as our highlighted selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Philadelphia 76ers in Houston taking on the Houston Rockets. Rockets are laying 15.5 points, and the total is 222.5. The Sixers come into this one on the second leg of a back-to-back, but not much travel as they're going from Dallas to Houston. They had over half their team ruled out yesterday, and it doesn't look much better going into tonight. This is a huge spread to lay with a hot and cold Rockets team, but there's no other way to go in my opinion. The Rockets are still the number 2 team in the West, 20 games ahead of the Sixers. They're tied with the Nuggets and Grizzlies record-wise in the 3rd and 4th spots, and I don't think they play with their food here. We're taking the Rockets laying the 15.5 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Chicago Bulls in Utah taking on the Utah Jazz. Bulls are laying 6 points, and the total is 240.5. This is definitely not a game I'll be watching. The Jazz come into this one on the second leg of a back-to-back, flying from Minnesota back home to Salt Lake City. I do expect the Bulls to be locked in here. They're in the last play-in spot in the East, just one game behind the Miami Heat. I do lean toward Chicago, but I'm looking at a total. These are two middle of the pack offenses, and while we probably see little defense being played, I don't know that they have the consistent offensive output to get us over a 240 total. We're taking the Bulls and Jazz under 240 and a half as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Denver Nuggets in Golden State taking on the Golden State Warriors. Warriors are laying 4 points, and the total is 237. This is going to be a fun one to watch. I saw something in that Warriors last game against the Knicks. While the Warriors did win the game, they were struggling to close it out down the stretch. Karl Anthony Towns dropped 29 and 12, and OG Anunoby dropped 23 and 9. That's always been the Warriors' problem. Lacking in size. The Nuggets are a team that have size at practically every position. Looking at the injury reports for this game, the Nuggets have Aaron Gordon, Jamal Murray, and Nikola Jokic all listed as questionable, and on the Warriors side, they have Steph Curry listed as questionable. I do need to see who goes, but assuming everyone plays, I'm rocking with the Nuggets. They've showed up as road dogs. They're 7-5 against the spread on the season, and I think they stack another road cover here. We're taking the Nuggets plus the 4.5 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Memphis Grizzlies in Sacramento taking on the Sacramento Kings. Kings are laying 3 points, and the total is 237.5. Looking at the injury report, the Kings come into this one at full strength, while the Grizzlies will be without Ja Morant, Santi Aldama, and Zion Pullen. These two teams faced each other on January 3rd of this year, and the Kings won that one 138-133. Ja Morant didn't play in that one, but Zach LaVine wasn't on the Kings yet either. I want to see an angle for the Kings here, but I genuinely don't understand how they're laying 3 points. The Grizzlies are 10 games ahead of them in the standings, need to win this game, and they've hooped without Ja Morant all season. Maybe the books see something I don't, but I think the Grizzlies get an outright win tonight. We're taking the Grizzlies plus the 3 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Toronto Raptors in Phoenix taking on the Phoenix Suns. Suns are laying 8.5 points, and the total is 227.5. The Suns get a couple covers, and now they're laying almost double digits. I have to pass. As home favorites, the Suns are 7-15-1 against the spread on the season. You're losing a pretty penny backing them in this situation. The Raptors on the other side have shown up as road dogs all season. They're now 18-13 against the spread in this spot. The Raptors are banged up and the Suns need to win this game, so I do expect the Suns to be playing motivated, but in the end, I think this comes down to the wire and the Raptors lose this game by a bucket. We're taking the Raptors plus the 8.5 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Washington Wizards in Portland taking on the Portland Trailblazers. Blazers are laying 6 points, and the total is 231. The Blazers come into this one on the second leg of a back-to-back, but no travel as they remain at home in Portland. This is one of my least favorite games on the board. I do have to lean towards the Blazers. They've hooped at home all season and still have a slim chance to make the play-in. They're 4 games behind the Mavs for the last play-in spot. Thing is, the Wizards on the other side have been playing spoiler recently. They just upset the Nuggets outright in Denver as 15-point underdogs. The Blazers have also been terrible as home favorites when laying points at home. They're just 1-4 against the spread on the season. They mainly cash as dogs. Like I'm saying, this game does mean more to the Blazers, and I lean in their direction, but probably one I'm staying away from personally. We're taking the Blazers laying the 6 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our last and final matchup of the evening, we have the San Antonio Spurs in Los Angeles taking on the Los Angeles Lakers. Lakers are laying 8.5 points, and the total is 229. The Lakers come into this one on the second leg of a back-to-back, but no travel as they remain at home in Los Angeles. They looked good yesterday getting that dominant win over the Phoenix Suns. Austin Reeves has been hooping. He's averaging 25-5 over their last 10 games. I do think the Lakers win this game, but I haven't drank the Kool-Aid quite yet. They're still shorthanded and on the second leg of a back-to-back. While I do expect big things from Luka and Austin Reeves later in the season, I do not expect Jackson Hayes to be averaging 20 points a night. for teams like the Spurs who have no playoff hopes, playing in Los Angeles against the Lakers is like their NBA Finals. I think the Spurs play them extremely tough tonight and lose this game by something like 6 points. I'm not in a rush to fade this Lakers team, trust me, but I do lean towards the Spurs plus 8.5 as our last and final selection of the evening. And that's going to conclude today's video. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. We're on a little losing skid, but let's go change that today. Let's go get back in that win column and stack another highlighted win. I greatly appreciate your support. I do this every day for free, so please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It's your boy, Yo! And until the next one, I'm going to catch y'all. Peace.